Hello, everybody. It's been a couple weeks. I have been busy preparing to launch all the new Planet Comedy content, trying to ramp up the video production over here on the Planet Comedy YouTube channel. And as you can see, been to work on some personal things. I have a new look. I have to keep my appearances up. I've also begun to work on some personal projects of mine that I want to get off the ground that have been something I've had in the works for a long time. Hopefully that'll be getting off the ground here really soon. But with that being said, I still have been watching movies, and I figured we could rattle off some opinions about them rapid fire style, the ones that I have seen. So why don't we take a look at some of the big movies that I have seen since the last time we saw each other? This was one I was kind of unfamiliar with going into. Obviously, not the Mortal Kombat franchise as a whole. Look at this nerdy exterior. Do I look like someone who doesn't know what Mortal Kombat is? But this particular film version of the historic fighting game franchise is one I'm not well versed in. I checked out of watching the first film for so long, mostly because it came out when the world was in the process of losing its mind. Because of that, I actually double featured this movie with the first Mortal Kombat, and I gotta say, I like these movies. Don't get me wrong, they have their problems. The CGI, as expected, can look a little rubbery at times. The acting isn't always perfect, and the writing can lean a little too hard into cliche. That being said, in my opinion, no other film has captured the vibes and energy of the game quite like these have, and deep down, that's all that really matters. Films like Mortal Kombat 2 are not meant to be award-winning cinema. This is an Oscar bait. It is an unserious film rendition of one of the most nonsensical universes in all of fiction. The universe of the games has been rebooted and retconned so many times that trying to salvage a cohesive narrative from them is a fool's errand. The best thing you can do is take characters, setting, and lore of the games, construct your own concise story that the fans can follow, giving nods to the moments from the games that people really like, while still creating your own unique story. And that is exactly what they've done here in these two movies, creating a story that is both incredibly similar to the games, but also unique in establishing a new timeline of events for new fans to follow the franchise. This isn't a cinematic masterpiece. You could argue at best it's just fine in terms of actual film quality, but there is something to be said for humility. This movie knows what it wants to be, and it doesn't try to be anything more. Carl Urban is great as a washed-up Johnny Cage, even if he did feel a little bit too uncoded at times for this role. Adeline Rudolph, whose katana is, spoiler, basically the real main character of the movie, is very good as well, bringing the Princess of Edenia to life. Also, Martin Ford is easily the most accurate version of Shao Kahn we may ever receive. What a fun time it was to see Mortal Kombat's biggest bad guy finally done right on the silver screen. If you're looking for award-winning cinema, something hard-hitting and intense and emotional, Mortal Kombat's probably not the movie for you. If you are a fan of the games and the franchise as a whole, I have to believe you will enjoy this. The second entry of the new Mortal Kombat franchise gets a very fun 2 out of 5 stars. Speaking of fun things at the cinema, The Mandalorian and Grogu flew into theaters on May 14th and has been getting mixed reviews ever since. As a massive Star Wars fan, I obviously sat down and watched it for myself, and I gotta say, kind of bummed me out. Not because this is some epic bomb or a horrible film, but because it's incredibly safe. This is about as cookie cutter as a movie gets. Everything you could expect if you were familiar with the recent seasons of the show present themselves in this film. In fact, this is basically 2.5 episodes of the show smashed together, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Many people obviously love the recent seasons of the show, and I can admit, this is a fun, simple adventure that you can take the whole family to follow along with. These are characters with years-long lore and story already laid down behind them in the form of a cultural phenomenon of the show. These guys no longer need an introduction. They are household names synonymous with the Star Wars franchise. Putting them in a series of admittedly fun but ultimately meaningless adventures and packaging that as a movie feels not only lazy but solely profit-driven with no heart behind it. Andor already showed us that Disney Star Wars can do at its best, and raised the bar for someone like me, a fan since I was a small boy who had grown up with the franchise and now expects a little more in terms of storytelling from one of the most culturally pervasive properties of all time. Mandalorian and Grogu is fine, just fine, and maybe that is the ultimate sin it has. That sometimes the worst thing you can be is disappointing. Mandalorian and Grogu gets a very disappointing 2 out of 5 stars. Now, let's take a look at the highest grossing movie in A24 history. First, in our YouTuber turned star filmmaker double feature, The Backrooms is essentially a creepypasta meme from 4chan that became one of the most popular concepts on the internet, thanks in large part to a web series created by YouTuber Kane Parsons. Fast forward 4 years and 78 million views later, and at just 20 years old, Parsons is in charge of the feature film version of his vision that has since garnered the biggest opening weekend in A24 history. So, is Parsons' much anticipated film version of his viral videos any good? Yes it is. One of the most visually striking films I've seen in a long time. The scenery will really stick with you and leave you feeling uneasy in the exact same way those YouTube videos did 4 years ago. The lore and world building is really on point, as Parsons takes some of the more well-known bits from the online lore and blends it with some new ideas he clearly has had for a long time. The majority of these ideas translate onto the screen really well, creating one of the most unique horror experiences I've had in a very long time. The Backrooms isn't scary in the way that most film fans are accustomed to, exchanging jump scares for a tense environment and an unsettling sense of the unknown. The acting can make or break a film like this, and luckily for Parsons, his cast definitely helped make it. Chiwetel Ejiofor and Renette Rensive carry the film as Clark and Mary, the two main characters who basically dominate all of the screen time outside of a few scenes. Both actors crush it as the emotionally unstable store owner and his traumatized therapist. Without these performances, the film simply would be a collection of fun visuals and great ideas without a real direction. These two give the movie its narrative core in a lot of ways, especially Clark, whose exploits in the titular Backroom sets the stage for a far more expansive set of stories that can be told in this universe going forward. As I said, The Backrooms doesn't feature a ton of the traditional scares that horror fans are accustomed to, relying on a sense of surreal unease to spook its audience. This is an incredibly effective thing during the found footage sequences, really making the viewer feel as though they are personally lost in this liminal space, but less so when the film switches back to its more traditional lens. The only real complaints I have about this one is that if you are unfamiliar with the pre-established lore, then this film can be a bit confusing. There is not a lot of explanation in terms of what is going on, which isn't entirely a bad thing. Fear of the unknown is one of the most effective tools in a director's belt, and I really respect when a filmmaker is able to effectively use it, but for a brand new viewer who may have never encountered the Backrooms before, I can see how this film would be a bit bewildering to try and sit through, especially at the end. The ending in particular seems to be a real sore spot for many, and I can admit it felt like the film's finale could have packed a little more punch, but it doesn't ruin the film by any means. It just felt like it was missing something that I couldn't quite put my finger on. The Backrooms is a very solid movie with an incredible concept and some genuinely cutting-edge visuals. It creates a hell of a sandbox for not only Parsons, but possibly other filmmakers to play in one day, but at times it feels like it's missing something that could really take it over the top and make it the film that everyone is talking about this year, similar to Sinners and Weapons last year. That being said, Kane Parsons' directorial debut nets a very positive 3 out of 5 stars. Now, for the big one. The current highest grossing film of 2026 is maybe the most unlikely candidate you could have ever thought of. The second in our YouTuber turned filmmaker double feature, as comedy skit writer Curry Barker makes his major motion picture debut. Barker had previously directed 2 excellent short films in The Chair and Milk and Cereal that he released on YouTube, but this is Barker's first attempt at an actual major motion picture. Obsession is the story of Bear, played by Michael Johnston, a hopeless romantic in the worst way possible, lusting after his delightful coworker Nikki Freeman, played by newfound superstar Indy Navarrete. When Bear uses the mysterious one-wish willow to wish that Nikki would love him more than anyone in the world, he gets to experience firsthand why Robin Williams Jr. had that rule set.
Rule number 2. I can't make anybody fall in love with anybody else. You little punum there.
Obsession is in the pace position to be my favorite film of the year. Relying almost completely on creating an environment of tension and uncomfortability as opposed to the traditional scares in a possession-adjacent movie, Obsession is one of the most unique viewing experiences I have ever had, regardless of genre. Playing with themes that are genuinely so dark and disturbing that it'll have you thinking about it long after the credits roll. Barker's script is unsettling, funny, and so smart as he is able to pull off a feat of making his characters feel like very real people, which is an underrated skill when it comes to writing. These characters don't feel like portrayals in a film, they feel like a group of 20-somethings trying to navigate the world around them in a very real way. However, with so few actual characters in this film, every single actor had to nail their performance for the movie to work, and thankfully everyone really made a name for themselves in this one, it seems. The obvious breakout star is Indy Navarrete, whose performance as Nikki carries the film entirely. Navarrete enters a realm that so few in her profession do in this movie, completely immersing herself in the role to the point that it is profoundly terrifying. Every line, action, and reaction is delivered in such a perfect, flawless way that if Navarrete doesn't garner real awards consideration, it'll be a goddamn tragedy. Michael Johnston also isn't, in my opinion, getting enough credit for his performance as Baird. Johnston puts just enough likable energy into his role that it makes Baird both an engaging and detestable protagonist, which is clearly the goal. Johnston hits the perfect middle ground of being pathetic, but not so pathetic that there isn't anything there to root for. Until a certain scene in the movie happens, then the only rooting for Barry you'll be doing is rooting for him to get hit by a bus. For $750,000 budget, this film is beautiful. Some of the shots and cinematography are breathtaking, and Barker's ability to use lighting to set the mood is incredible. This film was clearly made by a crew who understand that film is a visual medium, and the visuals in that medium can make a gigantic impact on the look and feel of your movie. Everyone who worked on the technical side of this movie deserves a round of applause. Everything looks absolutely fantastic, completely immersing you in the world. I have to assume a lot of the effects in this film are practical, which is a huge testament to the makeup and effects department. Obsession is a very meaningful movie. Not only is it great, but it represents a very real shift in the film industry. One where a 26-year-old who makes comedy skits on YouTube can make one of the most profitable and critically acclaimed films ever made by just having a clear creative vision and the balls to bet on himself. Maybe Curry Barker is going to be the Stephen King of our age, a generational figure who we look back on as a true cinematic genius. Or maybe Barker and his success represent a tone shift for movie audiences who are more interested in engaging in original stories told by new and inventive filmmakers instead of being served another half-baked summer blockbuster with nothing in mind outside of focus groups and profit margins. Instead of the factory line style of production we get from massive studios these days, that people might be interested in hearing new stories and voices in their cinema. We saw the start of this with guys like Zach Kreger, so maybe this is just a further evolution of the medium, but the success of both Obsession and the Backrooms feels like a real turning point. As for Curry Barker's major motion picture debut, if you listen to me go on this diatribe and thought I was going to give this absolute gent anything but a high rating, you haven't been listening. Curry Barker's Obsession gets an easy 5 out of 5 stars. And that about does it for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you have enjoyed these reviews, be sure to like and subscribe to the Planet Comedy YouTube channel to find more like them. Also, be sure to come join us on Monday as we begin a new video series here on the channel, This Week in Stupid, where yours truly will take a look at all the stupid things that have been going on in this wacky world of ours. We have been working hard to get this channel back on track these last few weeks, and I'm ready to open up the content faucet. So one more time, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow us on social media. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, night, and weekend. Be kind to each other, believe in yourself, and I'll see you on Monday.